Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Impact and Coffee for our last Impact and Coffee for May. I'm Robert Nelson. I'm with Pivotal New Mexico. I use he, him pronouns. I'm your co-host, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Michael Green. Good morning, Michael. How are you doing today?
Hey, good morning, Robert. Thank you for the introduction. I'm well, thank you. How are you today? What are you grateful for? So today is Gratitude Tuesday, so we always like to talk about things that we're grateful for, and I like putting the spotlight on Robert first because I usually have to think of this first, and it gives me a little longer to think about it. But so, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Michael, and good morning. And I'm grateful for. So we have a day off, a planned day off on Friday and Monday, and so I'm very grateful for the ability to be able to take time off and relax and be with my partner and not have to worry about work. So, and I always encourage people to take that time off because it's good for you. What about you, Michael? What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful that Mariah is here to join us today. I mean, she was one of the co-hosts for the longest time, and so it's nice to have her back in just a different capacities. So I'm grateful to see Mariah again.
Absolutely. Welcome back, Mariah. We'll get to hear it in just a second, but Michael, could you tell us a little about, for folks who don't know, what Impact and Coffee is?
Sure. Yeah. Impact and Coffee is an open, welcoming conversation to exchange stories and ideas, to foster innovation, to strengthen the nonprofit sector, and to build community. So basically, it's a way that we can all come together to it's a weekly nonprofit meetup where it happens the first 3 Tuesdays of the month, where we bring the nonprofit community together, where we can kind of just share what's going on in our world, look for places to collaborate, celebrate victories, and talk about some struggles. So that's in a nutshell what Impact and Coffee is.
That's awesome. And Impact and Coffee has a fun little grant award called the Next Gen In Award, and it's a $1,000 award for nonprofits looking to build capacity with youth in our community. Folks are welcome to, for more information, email Michael or I or Juan or Danny or Abby just to answer any questions. And about the award itself, we've awarded so many different organizations over the last 3-4 years or so, and celebrated so many different youth organizers and folks across our community. Also, I believe Impact and Coffee is also still looking for volunteers. So if anyone is interested in volunteering with the Impact and Coffee team, this is an amazing group of folks. Just email us or shoot us a message over the chat, and we can gladly connect with you at a later date. And with that, we are going to pass to our first speaker, Mariah Harrison. I'm going to spotlight you, Mariah. Welcome back to Impact and Coffee again. We're so glad to have you back. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're grateful for this morning, and then we'll launch into it.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I appreciate that intro and the time with you all today. I think that's one of the things I'm most grateful for today, is reconnecting with my Impact and Family crew, and spreading a little bit of positivity this morning, even though it's a little gray out there. It's a beautiful day. And so I am the nonprofit and philanthropy coordinator out of the Civic Engagement Office at the city. And I've been there for a year this month, about a year and a week. And my role is a number of different things, and it's still evolving because it's a brand new position. And so it's in a good way, it's very creative and very generative. And it's also challenging in that I don't have all the answers, and I also haven't worked with the city for very long. So my learning curve is on the up. So I'm going to share my screen here for 2 purposes. I did put together a small little PowerPoint for you all. And then I would like to take just a couple of seconds to share this report that I put together. So the report that I'm going to review came out in February, but the information is still really unique and worth celebrating. And then we're going to do it again every year from now on. So it was the first annual report of its kind. I also want to reiterate that not only is this job generative and unique, but I try to really operate on a day-to-day basis with my colleagues and with any other staff members at the city and the partners outside of the city with these values. And collaboration and service, vision and equity are what drives the work that we do every day. And that also goes for the Civic Engagement Office. And so I will bring in some information about that particular office and the work that we do, and hopefully we'll have some people on today that join us to share or to answer any questions and fill in any gaps that I might have. So let's see, it's 9:04. Robert or Michael, please give me a heads up when I'm getting down to time. So I'm going to start by sharing this report. If you go to the civic or to the CABQ website, the vanity for this is just cabq.gov/partnerships, but it'll actually take you to the annual reports page for our office, and it hosts 2 reports, one directly from the Civic Engagement Office annual report, and then the second one is the State of Partnerships report, which is mine. So I'm going to go to that. And if you would follow through with me, there's some big points that I want to make and some overview of the report. So again, this is the first annual report, the first of its kind, to describe how the city invests in nonprofits and in services across town, mostly through contract work. These are partnerships that have been created through multiple departments across the city and multiple types of services, everything from dance and culture to parks and rec to social and behavioral health. So you'll see this list has a whole bunch of different departments offered or listed, but then in the beginning, besides the about our department, we focus on COVID funding. So the big points about this report that we took from it over the months of putting it together was that over the course of fiscal year 20, the city of Albuquerque invested with 275 local nonprofits and intergovernmental agencies for $64.5 million. And the first part of this report, it tells you really who we are and what we do and a little bit about why we wrote the report, but then it moves into specific COVID funding response. And so I want to say that over the course of March through December of 2020, the city was able to put out $8.9 million in COVID relief. And we focus on a couple of specific projects. Of course, there was the One Albuquerque Fund who put out $226,000 worth of relief. And there was also Arts and Culture who was able to put out through the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, $304,000. And then Family and Community put out over $1 million for their CARES Act money. And so it was really extensive. It's ongoing. There's more to tell for this year, absolutely. But the first thing we talk about is housing the unsheltered, people experiencing homelessness, and how the wellness hotels and recovery came into play for that particular population. The next piece is the Community Impact Fund, which is a really incredible opportunity for folks who were ineligible for the first federal stimulus checks. And this was $2.5 million that went to 1,200 families. And I want to also say that that was gone in less than a day. There are people out there that were immediately on task, and nonprofits in town helping to coordinate families to reach this funding. And it was gone in a moment. But it was helpful at the time. And the next thing is the support to small businesses through PPE. That was $1.2 million, and over 2,000 businesses benefited from that while they were driving up to receive their grant checks from the Department of Economic Development. So then the report really just goes into departments. And I want to bring this up. I wanted to bring this to Impacting Coffee because the story of this report is all about how nonprofits can work with the city, have been working with the city. There's some extensive long-term partnerships that have been happening and some newer things that departments were really interested in. So every single department has a piece in their section with something we called a highlight. And for example, Family and Community Services, of the 78 organizations and the $52 million that they put into the community through partnerships with nonprofits, their project highlight was the Heading Homes Albuquerque Street Connect. And that is an outreach program that follows the Pathways model to support people with behavioral and mental health issues. Really incredible program that has continued funding, I believe, for this next fiscal year. The next largest amount of money that went out through the city departments was cultural services, which is now arts and culture. at $1.45 million, and that's 79 different organizations. So you'll see that the format continues as such. Again, this highlight here through Explora and the National Institute of Flamenco, some really incredible programs. And I'm looking in the chat just to double check I don't miss something. So I don't mean to be sidetracked, but I can't see everything. So feel free to call my attention to any questions along the way. So it was a joy really to put this project together because I learned so much about the departments and how they work with different nonprofits and how every single city department works differently. Family and Community has a really robust program in terms of working with their organizations over the course of 2 years. And they have like an outcomes, they have certain dates of those 2 years where they distribute different parts of the money and check in with these organizations regularly. While some other organizations only have a one-time thing where they receive a grant from a particular department. That might have happened with, for example, arts and culture, where they just are funding one particular event. And then, of course, there's economic development. There's a section here that shows how the economic development, while they have 75% of their contracts through nonprofits, totaling $7.7 million, we also wanted to highlight the work that they did, particularly through COVID, for nonprofits that wasn't, or for for-profits and support for that. So there was direct payment to micro businesses. Of course, the PPE came into play. And then their highlight was the International District Economic Development Program, which is really incredible. So what I would love for you to do is take some time to skim through this report or read through individual departments that you're interested in. And then towards the bottom, make a note that we did include information about the One Albuquerque Fund. And this is a 501c3 that Mayor Keller put into effect just the year before last, and they have raised thousands of dollars, over $500,000 in just the first 6 months of their being active. Really, they're run by a board. They're not run by city staff, and they have some particular areas of focus that they give out their grants to. And so I want to say that anybody can donate to the One Albuquerque Fund. They have some really great partnerships with city businesses around town and individuals. And then that money is funneled through city departments to work with nonprofits. And they're really agile as well. Their board is really interested in being innovative in the way that they work with nonprofits. So the last part is opportunities to partner, because of course we want to have a little bit of an action and a little bit of specific information on how to reach departments. Family and Community has a really wonderful website to find their RFPs. And then, of course, we took some time to share the gratitude of the staff members that work day to day on management of this money and partnerships themselves. And then we have a list of over 170. I think this particular list is over 165 organizations through, remember, this is just fiscal year 20 plus COVID relief partnerships. All the way till the last page, which is the 35th page of content. So that is the report. I'll get the link into our chat here shortly if it hasn't already been added. And then I'm just going to pop back over here to my presentation and give you some other information. And then I would welcome all kinds of questions. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate you throwing that link into the chat. So again, there are a number of different projects that I work on with the city in a couple of different departments. The first thing I'll just highlight is a Living Cities partnership through Family and Community Services and also the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And this is a program that we're hoping to find some funding for to develop housing and build wealth for the Native American community. That's growing and it's building and it's really interesting. We also run the United Way campaign out of our office. I'm working with the Volunteer Advisory Board to build a community of practice. And Sipora had this really incredible idea that brought to the table yesterday, and I'm just going to go ahead and share it because I'm 99% sure that this program is going to go forward. that we will be having an event coming up, hopefully by the end of next month, called the State of Volunteerism in New Mexico in 2021. And that will be something where multiple people can come and share their challenges and their ideas about adapting to volunteers and volunteer needs through COVID and thereafter. We're also trying to work on building a database for the partnerships that the city has so that it's accessible. And then the last thing I'm also really excited about is something called the Community Capacity Cohort. And this is in response to a lot of the conversations that I had across the city with people like Zipporah and some nonprofits about how sometimes it's really difficult to work with the city because of the sheer bureaucracy and the size and the time required to get money and to sort of navigate the whole entire thing. I'm going to throw a pen at my cat because she's eating one of my plants. Sorry. She's fine. And so those are some new projects. Civic engagement overall, you might be really familiar, I hope you are, with One Albuquerque Volunteers. This is where they've built a really incredible website for nonprofits and anybody who's really putting together an event that needs volunteers to sign up through. They've also coordinated the opportunity to volunteer with city departments and create city relationships through that. And like maybe most recently you saw through Parks and Rec and solid waste that there was 4 Saturday cleanups through the course of the last month. And that was tons and tons of volunteers, got really, really good traction there. I want to also make a point that if any of you know somebody who's interested in working with the city through the VISTA program, we have multiple spaces open for that. We also have a summer program that's available, and I can find you some links for that. So that's an overview. That's some of the work that we're doing. And I think I just want to reiterate that the point of this relationship is to fill some of the gap that the city has with larger ideas about how we can work with nonprofits. And it's not just through volunteering, and it's not just through contract work. And one point I want to make about the report, and I'll stop sharing here because it's distracting me, so I can come back to your faces, is that the money that is discussed in the report, that $64.5 million that's not necessarily COVID relief, that is both general funds, it is federal funds, and there's funding through multiple resources that comes into the city to make those partnerships happen. And we're always looking at new ways to create partnerships that aren't necessarily related to money either. It can be an MOU or some sort of a co-op agreement, which, for example, Parks and Rec has dozens of those through space usage, facilities usage. And I know that there's a lot of opportunity for more ways that we can work through organizations that doesn't have to do with an RFP, you know? And so if you have ideas about that and what the experiences that nonprofits have had, either reaching out, I'm happy to be in touch, and also find answers that I don't have, because as I said, I'm relatively new. So Abby, where are you looking to build the housing? That is still in play. Like, it's very still conversational right now. There's still nothing really happening. We're kind of feeling out who does what and what's where, and where could we find some money for a possible program like this. But it's a really incredible conversation to be having at all. Let's see. Thanks again for that link, Joe. I appreciate that. He's a really incredible person to reach out to, Joe Rubito, here for information on the VISTA program if you have questions. All right, let me know who has questions for me outside of that. Okay, if that's it, I think I can wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah, for joining us today and for sharing all of that wonderful information. It's, I think, great to see some transparency with local government and seeing what they're doing. And so we really appreciate all of the information you have to share with us. And you're always invited back to join us.
Awesome. Mariah. Yes, thanks for joining us today. And yeah, if you, Mariah, if you could just share your contact information in the chat, that'd be super helpful. If anyone has any questions or follow up, you're welcome to email Mariah and contact her and folks in the city, and how can be more involved. That'd be really helpful. But for now, we have a very special treat. I know it's like 9:20, so we're ahead of schedule, which is awesome. But we're going to, let me see, we're going to pass to Skip and Doug to play us a little music this morning. And Skip, I'm going to, as soon as I figure out there we go. That's what I wanted to do. There we go.
All right, there we are.
There we go. Hold on.
Oh boy, big screen. Oh my gosh.
Big screen. Scott or Skip, could you introduce yourself and Doug? Just tell us a little bit about yourselves, and we'll just
You bet. My name is Skip Pascoe. Beside me, I got Doug Muchmore. We're both New Mexico singer-songwriters. I worked in corporate America for probably 40 years and decided my retirement gig was going to be what I always wanted to do. My first love was playing music. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I've worked in Nashville, worked in Albuquerque, and learning the songwriting craft. And I've become associated with several veterans groups. Doug and I both belong to, and so we've been taking our passion of making music and writing songs to a lot of veterans organizations to kind of help vets deal with PTSD. Most recently, working with a group called the Cabazon Wounded Warrior Haven, which is up in Cabazon, New Mexico, and they've got a 65-acre facility up there that has bunkhouses on it. We have an outdoor stage, and we host vets up there all through the year, hunting programs, music programs. We try to do events. We're just not getting started back up after the COVID shut us down for about a year and a half, but we're hoping to reach a lot more vets and bring music to them to help them with their struggles. The Wounded Warrior Haven is a really good facility for doing that. It's a Christian-based facility. It's run by Lieutenant Colonel retired Mike Tachias, who's Special Forces. Got a lot of good guys in the group, and Doug and I are real proud to be associated with him. So we want to thank you for offering this opportunity to pass a little music on to you today. And if anybody would like to learn more about it, they can contact me at spascoe@sundogrecording.com. And I can give you more information on it. So, without further ado, we're gonna do a couple of originals. This is a song I wrote in Nashville, probably 2015, with a fellow songwriter called Jim McCarter, and recorded it on the last album I did here in Albuquerque called American Dream. But this is called "It's Gonna Be a Good Day." So this is a classic boy meets girl kind of song. Hope you enjoy it. She was the girl of my dreams, worked the tavern here. I stuttered when she asked, did I want a beer? 'Cause I was cowboy poor, she was a Hollywood beauty queen. So I wrote my number on my last $10, left it on the bar, thought it'd change my luck. When I turned to leave, I saw her smiling at me. It's gonna be a good day, it's all going my way. My life won't be the same from here on in. It's gonna be a good day, it's all going my way. I want every day to be a good day again. I was shocked and stoked when I got her call. From our first date on, I started to fall as the months flew by. Each day was my 4th of July. Then she told me she loved me and always will. I told her the same as time stood still. Then the preacher turned and told me, you can kiss the bride. It's gonna be a good day, it's all going my way. My life won't be the same from here on in. It's gonna be a good day. It's all going my way. She'll make every day a good day again. Every morning when her deep blue eyes smile at me, they're filling my heart with love, and again I see it's gonna be a good day. It's all going my way. My life won't be the same from here on in. It's gonna be a good day. It's all going my way. She'll make every day, every single day. She'll make every day a good day again. Oh, there's gonna be a good day again. Thank you. I'm going to bring Doug up now, and he's going to do one for you.
Well, thanks for having me again. It's pretty hard to follow Skip Pascoe, but I'm going to give it a shot. This is off my album called New Mexico Enchanted Anthology, and it's all songs based about New Mexico, I guess. I try to kind of do a visual setting with New Mexico. I love the state. Anyway, it's called Oh New Mexico. Cool dust breeze in the fall, smell of roast chili says it all. In your mistake it fills the air, sweet Spanish language spoken there. Red enchilada and margarita, served by lovely senorita, with stove it crackles by the wall. It keeps a chill from the fall. Whoa, 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 New Mexico. Whoa, 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 New Mexico. Cowboy at the bars run out of skull, so he lights a Frajo fresh hand roll. His hat brim line is caked in dirt, hot dead sweats right in his shirt. Outside the men they're working cattle, vaquero sits side and saddle. Good that work here for so long comes together like a song. Whoa, 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 New Mexico. Whoa, 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 New Mexico. Smell Indian bread from an horno, cross the river at the Pueblo. Red sun slips down the western sky, when more enchanted day shall die. Whoa, 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 New Mexico. Whoa, 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 New Mexico.
Good job, Douglas.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, guys. There you have it.
I was going to say, do y'all want to do one more?
One more. Well, we got time, huh?
We got a little bit of time, yeah?
Okay, so I guess this is I guess this is when they always say you need to have an encore in your back pocket, right?
That's right.
Okay. Let me see here. Let's well, I'll do one that off the album again. This is one I wrote when I used to be a drinking guy. This is called. It's early in the morning, but when the bourbon flows. In my favorite bar on a Friday night, been sober for a week and I'm feeling fine. Think I'm right where I belong. So damn happy that the work week's gone. Can't forget my troubles and listen to a song. Roll that bottle down and move this party along. When the bourbon blows, life gets so much better when my memory gets real slow. Problems fade away when the lights get real low. My whistle just gets wetter when the bourbon blows. Happy just to drink away. Full cooler gonna fix my world for the ice melts away. Pour me more reasons for me to stay. Gonna drink tonight for a brand new day. Pick myself up and be ready to pay for the number I had along the way. When the bourbon rolls, life gets so much better when my memory gets real slow. My problem fades away when my lights get real low. We all look so much better when the bourbon blows. Happy just to drink away. Whoa, 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 whoa. Like to drink, hang with all my friends who drink with me. Just because my glass is full, there's nothing else I need. Oh, you need to go to the place I'd rather be. When the bourbon blows, life gets so much better when my memory gets real slow. My problems fade away when the lights get real low. We all look so much better when the bourbon blows. Happy just to drink away. Whoa, 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 whoa. When the bourbon blows. Whoa, 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 whoa. Bourbon blues. Whoa, 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 whoa. When the bourbon blues. Whoa, 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 whoa. When the bourbon blues. Thank you, thank you.
All right. We got a big virtual round of applause for you.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Check out Skip, Pascoe, and Doug. Much more. We sent out the information on the chat. Thank you both so much for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and pass it to Lindsey. I'm going to replace you with the spotlight. There we go. Awesome stuff. Good morning, Lindsey. Thanks so much for joining us today. You have the floor. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Paws and Stripes, and thank you again.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. So hi, everyone. It's a Tuesday morning. I have a slideshow too. Sometimes it's nice to look at pictures and not my face when I talk about Paws and Stripes. So I'm going to try to get that up here real quick. Bear with me one moment. Let's see, you know, we're in this weird limbo now where in part, you know, we're kind of, some of us are getting back into the office, getting back to doing normal things. And then on the other hand, we're doing virtual presentations still like we're doing today. So here we are. All righty. Hopefully there's not too much of a lag here. There we go. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Paws and Stripes, who we are, and talk a little bit honestly about what's been going on in this last year, because I think everyone knows we had a pandemic, it turns out. Okay, so Paws and Stripes. We work with, if you haven't guessed already, dogs and veterans. So the mission of Paws and Stripes is to provide animal-assisted therapy to veterans who have specifically post-traumatic stress disorder and brain injuries, as well as veterans who are living with the effects of military sexual trauma. So our goal and what we've done, we've been around for just about 11 years now. And what we've done in those 11 years is really we've focused on training service dogs. So these dogs are trained specifically to provide an assistance to their veterans, specific to their disabilities. So these dogs are, and I have one of our dogs here with me now. These dogs are trained to assist these veterans with whatever particular issues that they're living with associated with those diagnoses, as well as whatever else, honestly, they're having to deal with as a result of having served in the military and whatever they endured while they were in service. So that being said, we focus primarily on training service animals. We've actually introduced some additional means for bringing dogs into veterans' lives, which I'm going to talk about here in just a little bit. So first and foremost, I just want to talk a little bit about who we serve and why. So we specifically work with military veterans, as I mentioned, that are living with post-traumatic stress disorder, brain injuries, and specifically living with the effects of military sexual trauma. So in the United States, veterans that have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder are more likely to commit domestic violence. In the military, we see approximately every 30 minutes, there's a sexual assault. And this is obviously based off of what's reported. And every day, based on the most recent numbers provided by the VA, we're seeing about 18 veterans taking their own lives daily. Now, this is based on what has been calculated. This is probably a lot higher. Keep in mind, the state of New Mexico has the highest rate of suicide in the nation. So here in New Mexico, very specifically, we have a pretty dire situation to serve our veterans. 11% of the population in this state are veterans as well. So we have a pretty significant number of individuals living with the effects of what they endured while they were in service here in New Mexico. So post-traumatic stress disorder, this is an extremely short list, just some highlights of some of the things that individuals who have this diagnosis live with. Flashbacks is when you have someone who, or is when someone re-experiences essentially the memory or the trauma that they endured. Some of you may be familiar with this if you have a family member that's been diagnosed with PTSD and served and has combat-related trauma specifically, or also with military sexual trauma. Emotional detachment, things like that associated with PTSD also overlap with brain injuries. We often see these happen together. These diagnoses occur together if a brain injury has even been diagnosed. Sometimes the two can be confused. But there's migraines, dizziness, sensitivity to light, noise, nausea. And usually when these bouts can come on pretty suddenly too, so that can really impede quality of life. And ultimately this leads to major social isolation, hostility, depression, insomnia. And I mean, you're tired all the time, right? When you're living with these situations. So ultimately, these diagnoses really impact daily functioning. They impact relationships, and individuals' worlds can become very small. So cue Paws and Stripes. In 2010, after a family member had been diagnosed with PTSD and a brain injury, just in an effort to try to help them feel better and try to get out more, I had adopted a shelter dog for them. And while that is obviously, so originally I was working in rescue and veterinary clinics. So for me, just put a dog in it, it'll make everything better, right? The more I learned, I realized that dogs can actually do a whole lot more for individuals that have these diagnoses. Unfortunately, there's only so many organizations available to provide the training and the resources necessary to have a dog be able to be a service animal, or to basically do more than having just a relationship with a pet, right? And so that's how Paws and Stripes was started. And it was born out of the realization that the veterans in New Mexico are desperately seeking this sort of aid, this sort of support. There, as I mentioned, are so many veterans in the state. And as soon as it was public, as soon as the name Paws and Stripes was out there, we've had a waiting list of individuals needing to come into the program. New Mexico has a very limited number of veteran service organizations, particularly when you compare it to the number of veterans that are living in the state. And the need was just so great that we've been pretty busy for 11 years. So having focused primarily on service animal training for 11 years, we've managed to graduate, while we've provided services to over 200 individuals in 11 years. And this is basically right here on the screen, kind of a sum of the major focuses of our program. So we don't just train a dog to provide assistance to individuals and then send them on our way. Our program takes about a year, approximately a year. Sometimes it can take a little more, sometimes a little less, because we individualize for all of our clients. Mental health is an enormous component of what we do. We have regular psych education, individual therapy, group workshops, and we incorporate communication and de-escalation tools and skills in everything that we do. The dog training piece is obviously a very important component as well. And we use what's called an owner-trainer model. So our trainers work with the veteran and the dog together to train them in preparation to be their own service animal once they've graduated the program. So all of these things that we do in mental health and dog training are geared towards helping facilitate reintegration for our clients. So we want veterans to feel like they can reconnect to their communities, they can reconnect with their families, build a support network, re-enter the workforce, or be more involved in the workforce, or pursue education, whether that's through trade school, community college. Sometimes it's just about pursuing a hobby that they always wanted to. Sometimes it can be going back to school to pursue a new career. We've seen all kinds of things. We have graduates that have just really jumped in with both feet to chase their dreams again, and it's pretty remarkable. We actually have a veteran that graduated some years ago, and upon graduation, she soon after finished law school, and then she decided to, once she was able to practice, she had moved to Washington State, and now she provides legal assistance specifically to veterans that need it, which is so huge. Unfortunately, a lot of veterans tend to need some sort of legal assistance, usually related to claims related to health issues or trying to get their VA benefits, things like that. So having someone that's dedicated in their corner is really valuable. We also have veterans who've graduated and gone to school to be social workers and are now working with veterans as a social worker to sort of pay it forward in a really meaningful way but you know, stories, then there's so many. We've gotten pictures of veterans who were able to walk their daughter down the aisle. It was one that comes to mind when she was married with their service dog on their side. You know, just being able to see the arc in someone's life and how the isolation, they break out of it and they're able to really reconnect with the people and the things in their life that matter to them. I mean, that's the ultimate goal at the end. So we do track progress in a few different ways. So we collect data from the time that they apply for our program until they've graduated and even past that. And what we found is that there are dramatic increases in more recuperative sleep. A lot of veterans struggle with insomnia and nightmares, and having their dog with them. We see a lot of dogs who will naturally just wake their person up when they're having a nightmare. So it helps disrupt sleep that's nightmare ridden and provides a comfort that way. But also, we see a higher rate of community involvement, more veterans going back to work, going back to school, because they now have a dog that can go with them everywhere that's trained to provide them with assistances like or medication reminders, assist them if they fall, helping them up and down out of chairs, retrieving items if they're having difficulties with mobility that day. We've even had dogs who have been trained to wake their handler up if they are sleepwalking to make sure they don't leave the house, which that was one of the cooler stories that we've had in the last couple years is the success that we saw with that particular case. We also see dramatic decreases in alcohol consumption. Clients are less isolated and their public anxiety is much less as well. And these are common issues that we see that tend to facilitate a lower rate of participation in the community, going out and doing things with your family, even having date night with your partner. So being able to measure these improvements quantitatively has been really valuable as well. So I mentioned our program. We work with dogs, obviously, in a lot of different capacities. And, you know, there's a lot of dog training. So we do everything from different types of agility courses to teach dogs confidence and to challenge them and socialize them to different environments. But also while dogs are learning to do really cool skills, they're also bonding with their handler. So our program is really rooted in this relationship. Relationship is so important. So one of the things that we have decided that we're going to really focus on in the coming years is building on the concept of relationship and skills building. We have a lot of veterans who aren't able to make the commitment, the long-term year-plus potential program to train a service animal. And some veterans don't necessarily need a service dog all the time. But having access to a support system, therapy, and being able to really build on that bond with a pet. We started in the beginning of 2021 this year. We started our program that we call CAP, because if you're in the military, you love acronyms. So we have acronyms for everything. CAP stands for Companion Animal Program. So we're now offering a 3-month program where veterans can enroll and they bring in a pet, or we will take them to local shelters that we're partnered with, help them choose a pet that they can adopt, and they take them home that day. And they do a 3-month program where they're basically doing bonding, enrichment, and some basic obedience training with their new friend, as well as workshops where they learn psych ed. There's different psych ed courses they take each week in those workshops with a group of other veterans who are also in CAP. And then they also, during workshop, get to participate in various therapeutic modalities, mindfulness, DBT skills building, art therapy, things like that. So every year, we have been completely privately funded. So our organization is fully funded by private donations from individuals, local businesses, grants. The average cost in the United States for a service dog is $30,000. And that's just for a dog that's been trained to provide a service to an individual with a disability. Our program is an extensive, average year-long program that provides ongoing mental health, psych ed, dog training, equipment, initial vet care for the same price. So that's overhead included in everything. We see about, for every unique team in training, about $30,000 is what it costs for someone to receive those services. And that also does not include the ongoing support that we do provide to people who have already graduated the program. And it also doesn't include CAP. So CAP is a new program that we've just launched that we're hoping can provide and more access to more veterans in New Mexico to these much needed services. Unfortunately, during COVID, a lot of our clients were forced into isolation with everybody else. And sometimes that meant it was just them and their dog. The VA's programs that a lot of veterans were using, skills building courses, things like that, therapy, medical care, a lot of things were sort of ceased or put on hold indefinitely through the VA, even outside of telehealth. So having had a lot of that support taken from them is very difficult for our clients to have that sudden rug ripped out from under them without having any of the therapies that they were used to pursuing. So our organization tried to really step up client care and prioritize that over how long it takes to get the dog trained, because making sure that our client care, crisis intervention, and that bonding is continuing between the client and their dog, that became our main focus. And so the implementation of CAP, we're hoping will also help bring in more veterans who have found themselves pretty deeply isolated this last year. But thankfully, we saw no clients had to drop out of the program in 2020. We actually enrolled a lot of new teams and focused on building the new CAP program. So despite the trials of 2020, we were able to keep on going. So moving forward, we're hoping that we can increase our mental health support services over the next 12 months and roll out new opportunities for veterans to pursue support. That is my presentation. Do you guys have any questions now that I talked at you for however long I talked to you? See if there are comments over here. I didn't see them. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, anyone who is has any questions. I was really surprised by the stat that it's $30,000 to train a service dog. That's a lot of money. What goes into that $30,000?
So for our program, that covers ongoing counseling, psych ed classes. So our clients are actually coming to Paws and Stripes for services 3 to 4 times every single week for average 12 months. So it's a lot of ongoing client care and dog training. So it's not just dog training. Now, traditional service dog programs will raise a dog when they're a puppy until they're around 2 before they assign them to a handler. And then the handler spends 2 to 4 weeks with that dog before taking them home. So that money typically goes into the care, right, of that, and the care and training for that dog for those years. For us, we're providing this really wraparound service model for clients that includes a whole lot more than just the dog training piece. Because while the dog training piece is awesome, and we work with local shelters, so we're bringing dogs in from shelters instead of working with breeders, it just doesn't work the same way without the mental health support component. That's really kind of the bones of what we're doing is mental health.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? I know it's Tuesday morning and it's cloudy outside. I think people are like, yeah, I just want to stay inside and read a book and drink hot chocolate.
Yeah, it's bizarre weather.
Yeah.
Our weather is so fickle right now. Well, cool. I'm going to put my information in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, comments, please give us a ring, shoot us an email, and we would be happy to talk about volunteer opportunities, events coming up, or any sort of questions you guys have. Thank you so much.
Hey, Lindsey, to kind of build off of what you just mentioned, what can the community here do for you today? What kind of support do you need? What are you looking for? How can we help? And especially maybe how can we help from home?
So thank you for asking. A couple different things. So we are starting to, so we're now open again. We just, for the last couple weeks, we've all been working on site more. So we were mostly virtual for, up until then. We are starting to open up some volunteer opportunities. Some can be done from home. Some, we would like to start bringing some volunteers into our facility, which we have a large space and we have a whole COVID protocol system to make sure that we're being safe. Pretty much all of our staff's vaccinated. So anybody who's willing and interested in doing volunteer work, whether it's from home or coming to Paws, we're definitely interested to hear from you. We have some events coming up, hopefully later this year, depending on kind of how things go with COVID. So sign up for our email list so we can keep you in the loop so you can stay involved that way too. And, I know people are probably tired of being hit up for money. Being able to volunteer time, or if there's things that you can donate, or really just spreading the word, that's really beneficial. Last year, there's less than 1% of funding opportunities specifically for veterans' mental health available, because dealing with the crisis, funding opportunities for organizations like ours dramatically dropped. So we've really been hustling to make sure that we can keep things moving and keep our clients supported. So let people know, send people to our website, go to our Facebook, and tell people about us. And if you can donate, that's awesome.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right.
Let's see.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsey. And thanks everyone for joining us today. I think we'll go ahead and close that Impact and Coffee. We'll be back in June. I believe our next Impact and Coffee will be June 1st, actually. So join us for our program as we return back for Impact and Coffee on June 1st at 9 o'clock over Zoom. I know we are probably going to be thinking about at one point, how do we come back to in-person Impact and Coffee so we can actually add the coffee part to Impact. So we miss Lily Marie, we miss Nicole, and hopefully we'll have some conversations about that sometime soon. So stay tuned and we'll see you in June. And thank you to Mariah and to Lindsey and to Skip and to Doug. Thank you so much for joining us today on this last Impact and Coffee of May. Happy, I think Memorial Day is at the end of this month, I believe. So I hope everyone has a really great rest of your month and a really great rest of your week. And may all your lights be green. We'll see you later. Take care.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Take care.